1913, deep in the Amazon rainforest, former U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt embarked on a journey down an uncharted river. Local villagers, eager to impress their famous guest, prepared a gruesome demonstration. They blocked off a section of the water, trapped a dense cluster of piranhas inside, and left them hungry. Then, they led an old cow to the river's edge and pushed it in. What happened next became the kind of story that infects the human imagination. The water erupted into a violent churn of bodies. A froth of blood spread outward like spilled ink. And in a shockingly short time, the cow was reduced to bone. That moment didn't just scare Roosevelt, it scared the world. Because a fish that could erase a cow felt like proof that the river itself had teeth. And once that image enters the public mind, it doesn't leave. It becomes a warning passed from person to person, movie to movie, clip to clip. A simple message: piranhas are monsters. There's just one problem. Almost everything about that story is misunderstood, incomplete, or exaggerated. Yes, piranhas are real. Yes, they have razor teeth. Yes, they can bite. But the idea that they will automatically swarm and skeletonize any living thing that enters the water is mostly a myth built from rare conditions, staged scenarios, and the human habit of turning nature into horror. And the truth is far more interesting than the legend. Because once you strip away the fear, you don't find a mindless killing machine. You find something unexpectedly complex, a fish family with many different lifestyles, many different diets, and many different personalities. Some piranhas behave like predators. Some behave like scavengers. Some behave like nervous prey animals. And some barely eat meat at all. That's the first thing people get wrong. Piranha is not one animal. It's a whole world of animals. In the rivers of South America, there are many species that carry the piranha identity. Some are the classic sharp-faced, red-bellied fish. Others look darker, thicker, more solitary and aggressive. Others resemble their gentle cousins so closely that people can't even tell the difference until they see the teeth. And then there are species that surprise almost everyone. Fish called piranhas, that spend most of their lives chewing plants, fruits, seeds, and river weeds. That's right. Not all piranhas are carnivores. Some are omnivores, switching between meat and plant matter depending on the season. Some are opportunists that prefer injured prey, but rarely take the risk of attacking something healthy. And some are basically vegetarians with a terrifying mouth. So when people say piranhas will eat anything, they're not describing biology. They're describing a myth that grew louder than reality. To understand why the myth stuck, you have to understand how humans react to the unseen. A shark is scary, but at least you can imagine it in open water. A snake is scary, but you can spot it if you're careful. Piranhas trigger something deeper because they create fear without visibility. You can't see them clearly in muddy river water. You can't predict them. And most importantly, you can't negotiate with them. They're small, but they feel unstoppable because they are many. That idea, many small things becoming one big threat, is one of the oldest fears humans have. Swarms, plagues, infestations. It's not just the teeth. It's the feeling of being overwhelmed. And nature doesn't help, because piranhas really do have the kind of mouth that looks like it was designed by a nightmare. Their teeth are triangular and interlocking, like a set of tiny blades that fit together perfectly. They don't grind like human teeth. They don't crush like many fish. They slice. A quick snap, and a chunk is gone. That's why a piranha bite feels so clean and so brutal. Not because the fish is cruel, but because the mouth evolved to be efficient. In a river ecosystem, efficiency is everything. Food comes in bursts. A fish gets injured. A bird falls into the water. A carcass drifts downstream. A seasonal die-off leaves bodies in the shallows. The river does not offer stable meals. It offers sudden opportunities. And in those moments, a fish that can take a quick bite and retreat has an advantage over a fish that needs time to chew. So the piranha's teeth are not a symbol of evil. They are a symbol of competition. Because when a meal appears, you're not alone. Other fish want it. Other predators want it. Even your own species wants it. In that chaos, taking one clean bite quickly can mean survival. That's the real logic behind the feeding frenzy. Not madness, competition. But here's where the story becomes even more surprising. Most piranhas don't spend their days frenzied. They spend their days cautious. In fact, many piranhas are nervous fish. They spook easily. They scatter at sudden movement. They retreat into shadows. They hide among roots and vegetation. They prefer murky water not because it helps them attack, but because it helps them avoid being seen. And that leads to the second major misunderstanding. When people see a school of piranhas, they assume it's a hunting pack, but schooling is often defensive. The Amazon is full of predators that eat piranhas, large fish, crocodilian hunters, birds that strike like spears from above, river mammals that patrol like ghosts. A lone piranha is vulnerable. A group is harder to target. In a group, confusion protects you. A predator can't focus on one body when hundreds move together. So, in many cases, piranhas gather not because they are fearless. They gather because they are afraid. That flips the whole myth on its head. The famous swarm isn't always a weapon. Sometimes it's a shield. Now, this doesn't mean piranhas are harmless. It doesn't mean they never attack. But it means their default mode isn't hunt humans. Their default mode is survive the river. So when do piranhas become dangerous? The answer is simple. When the river becomes desperate. In the dry season, water levels drop, channels shrink, pools become smaller, fish become trapped, food becomes scarce, the environment becomes hotter, more crowded, more stressful. The river stops feeling endless and begins to feel like a cage. That's when behavior changes. Hungry animals take risks they wouldn't normally take. A fish that would usually avoid a large animal might suddenly investigate. A school that would normally scatter might hold its ground. A bite that would normally never happen becomes possible. And even then, most piranha bites are not the cinematic horror people imagine. They're often quick nips, usually at toes or fingers, small pieces taken from the edge of what moves. A test bite, a warning bite, a panic bite, a hunger bite, not a coordinated execution. There's also another moment when piranhas can be aggressive, nesting. Some species guard their eggs. When they do, they may bite anything that approaches the nest zone, not because they want to eat it, but because they want it gone. In that situation, a piranha bite is more like a dog snapping at a stranger near its puppies. Defensive, territorial, focused. And that explains something important. Many attacks are not feeding at all. They are defense. Now think about how humans behave in rivers. Humans splash, humans thrash, humans kick, humans panic when they imagine danger. And to a piranha, splashing can look like weakness. It can look like struggling prey. It can also look like invasion. So the myth becomes self-fulfilling. People fear piranhas. They behave nervously. They splash more. And that increases the chance of a bite. The real danger isn't the fish alone. It's the combination of fear and the wrong conditions. And still, the most important truth remains. Humans are not normal prey for piranhas. Most piranhas are too small to take on large animals. Even the most aggressive species prefer fish, smaller prey, or scavenged meat. A healthy adult human is loud, huge, and unpredictable. The risk of injury to the piranha is high, and in nature, injury is often death. So piranhas generally avoid you, which raises a question. If they aren't the mindless killers we think they are, what are they actually doing most of the time? This is where the story becomes almost beautiful, because one of the piranha's most important roles is not hunting, it's cleaning. Rivers produce death constantly. Fish die, animals drown, bodies drift. Without scavengers, those remains would rot and poison local waters, spreading disease and changing chemistry. Piranhas help prevent that. They remove dead matter quickly. They recycle nutrients back into the ecosystem. They keep the river from becoming a graveyard. They are, in a way, the river's invisible sanitation crew. Not glamorous, not pleasant to watch, but essential, and they're not alone in that role. Many fish scavenge, but piranhas do it with speed, with efficiency, with the kind of mouth that makes humans recoil. Which is why the myth found them. Because scavenging looks like violence when you don't understand it. Now add another layer, the diversity of piranhas again. Some species are built more for cutting flesh. Others have teeth and jaw shapes that handle different foods. Some specialize in biting fins off other fish, an odd strategy that injures prey and forces it to slow down, allowing the piranha to survive without committing to a dangerous full attack. Some focus on smaller prey. Some grow larger and behave more solitary. Some are so plant-focused that they spend their lives chewing tough vegetation and crushing seeds. This matters because it means piranha behavior is not a single behavior. It's a spectrum. One river might hold a species that mostly scavenges. Another might hold a species that behaves more aggressively. Another might hold a plant chewer that only bites flesh when there's no other choice. Yet the myth treats every bite as proof that all piranhas are identical monsters. But nature doesn't build stereotypes. It builds strategies. And piranhas are one of the most misunderstood strategy groups in freshwater ecosystems. Even their famous bite can be reinterpreted when you think in survival terms. A piranha doesn't need to kill a large animal. It needs one thing, a piece. One bite is enough. One slice is enough. One chunk is enough to keep a small fish alive in a competitive environment. That's why the skeletonizing stories often involve dead or trapped animals. A carcass doesn't fight back. A trapped animal can't escape. A starving school in a confined area behaves unlike a free, well-fed school in open water. That's why staged demonstrations created such powerful myths. They compressed reality into a spectacle. And the human mind remembered the spectacle, not the context. Now, there's one more twist that makes the piranha even more fascinating. Piranhas aren't just teeth. They are social. They respond to each other. They form hierarchies. They communicate through subtle behaviors and vibrations. They can signal tension and aggression. They can respond to disturbances in the water in ways that look coordinated, not because they're planning like humans, but because they're tuned into the same sensory world. That sensory world is built for murky rivers. Visibility is low, so hearing and vibration matter. Smell matters. Pressure changes matter. Piranhas don't need clear vision to detect weakness or movement. They feel the river like an instrument. And that's why the myth of blood in the water drives them mad became popular. Blood can attract attention in a river ecosystem, but it doesn't flip a magical switch. It doesn't instantly turn every fish into a killing machine. It's simply one more signal among many. In the end, the piranha is not a horror creature. It's a mirror for how humans misunderstand nature. We take a rare extreme event and treat it like the default. We take a defensive bite and call it predation. We see scavenging and call it cruelty. We see a school and assume it's an army. And because the piranha is hidden beneath murky water, our imagination fills the gaps. But if you step back and watch the river honestly, something changes. The piranha becomes less like a monster and more like a product of its environment. A fish shaped by competition, by scarcity, by predators, by seasons, by a river that doesn't forgive weakness. And suddenly, the real story is bigger than fear. Because the Amazon isn't a place where evil lives in the water. It's a place where every creature is trying to survive in a system that runs on balance. Piranhas are not here to punish you for entering the river. They are here to do their job. To eat what they can, to avoid what they can't, to clean what dies, to defend what matters, to survive one more season. And once you accept that, the myth starts to collapse. The water no longer feels like a mouth waiting to bite. It feels like an ecosystem working as it always has. Quietly, indifferently, perfectly. So the next time you hear someone say piranhas can strip you to bone in seconds, remember the truth. Yes, they have teeth. Yes, they can bite. Yes, in rare conditions, they can become dangerous. But most of the time, the piranha isn't hunting you. It's avoiding you. And the scariest part of the story was never the fish. It was what we chose to believe about it.